Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are looking at two Spitfire audio libraries, the Hearth and Hollow Folk Voices library and the Albion Solstice library. These two libraries are paired with the EDNA library this month in the Solstice bundle and are 70% off. While I don't own the EDNA library, I do own the Folk Voices and Albion Solstice library, and I love these both. I've been playing with these for over a year now. Albion Solstice was an instant buy for me when it came out. I love the Scandinavian folk vibes. I've always very much been into Scandinavian culture and visited Iceland for the first time in 2021 and have basically been hooked ever since. The Folk Voices library is without a doubt one of the most unique voice libraries that I have. I had been looking for a library to cover that sound for a very, very long time, and so when it came out, I was extremely excited. There was a lot to unpack in both of these libraries, but we're basically just going to be checking out the sounds that I used for this track that you saw in the intro. All right, let's dive right in here. Very first thing I did was I started out with this drone from one of their drone grids. These grids are insanely awesome. As you can see, I don't know if you've ever seen these Evo grids from Spitfire before, but it's a staple of theirs. Essentially, every single one of these dots is a different sound or articulation. These are all essentially a mixture of string textures, hurdy-gurdy textures, wind textures, vocal textures, guitar textures, and more. And so when you come up here and you hit the dice button, the randomize button, you can essentially randomize all of these parameters to get a totally unique sound. So you can randomize with just the elders, which is the strings. You can randomize with the callers and the mystics, and so I believe that is the winds and the choir. You can randomize with the band, which includes guitars and bass. You can randomize with the blackguards, which includes a lot of different instruments, and of course randomize with the hurdy-gurdy. So basically you can just play a drone and any one of these keys will actually have a totally different texture to it. So a lot of the time when I'm composing, I like to just set up a simple drone. You know, in this case, it's a really simple fifth, just C and G. And then kind of just play around that. I don't always keep the drone. A lot of the time I split off into a little bit more interesting harmony. But in this case, I feel like it really, really worked with the track. As I was playing the drone, I loaded up the legato patch in the Elder Classic strings. So the Elder Classic strings and the Elder Traditional strings are actually two string sections which include most articulations, but they're two different section sizes. I believe the Elder Classic is the smaller section size. And so paired with the drone, I wrote this melody. And that melody essentially became the basis of the whole track. After that, I loaded up an instance of the Mystics, which is a combination of different woodwinds. So at first, I just doubled up the main melody. And that's just the normal legato patch. I quickly realized that I needed it to sound a bit more interesting. This patch doesn't have like a built-in performance legato or anything like that with built-in ornaments, but it does have this articulation over here, which is the effects gliss up. And so when you play that, and so what I actually ended up doing was I changed the key switches to these both so that it latches to the legato, but anytime it goes above, let's see, 120 velocity, it actually triggers this FX Gliss patch. So that way I can essentially treat it like a performance legato anytime that I hit the keys hard. And if I hit it softer, so that way we get A lot of people don't know this about Spitfire's contact libraries. It actually has a lot of flexibility when it comes to key switches. I could have changed it by the speed of playing, by MIDI channel, by key switch. So as Hans Zimmer would say, RTFM. Anyway, these two melodies combined sounds like this. After that, I wanted these kind of flourishes in between the main melody points. So next I reached for the folk choir. So as you can see, we're in the Hearth and Hollow library, and you have 4 singers here. You can change the volume, pan, you can change the positioning. This is really cool. You can kind of just like move them around the room and get like your perfect sort of seating / mic mix. And then here you can change the different articulation that each of the singers is singing. We have all different kinds of sustains, oohs, ahs. And then we have these blooms, which are essentially the singer singing these different articulations in different patterns or different frequencies. So you go to the preset menu and they have a lot of these different presets, all sustain, these grooves, low high oohs, vocal combos, etc., etc. And then there's one called all bloom, which is what I chose. So they're all essentially doing different variations of these oohs, and ahs. Such a beautiful and intimate and like at the same time somehow ethereal sound. After that, I went back to Solstice and I paired those blooms with these fast tremolos from the guitar patches, and that sounds like this. So combined, those two patches together create this really cool flourish in between the melody lines. I then went ahead and created this drum groove. And so this is the full Mard kit. It comes with a ton of different groove patterns and phrases that these drums play, but you can also just play in the regular kit. There's 2 different drum kits. I personally prefer this one. I feel like it just has a really round and organic sound. I especially love how much low end this drum kit has without having to really add anything in post. All throughout this, I have these guitar harmonics going on that sound like this. And so these are different Evos. And so I don't think there's an Evo grid specifically for the guitars. I kind of wish there was, but these seem to be sort of pre-programmed Evo presets. So different guitar textures all kind of in one. And then underneath we have some bass, which is extremely thick. I also added a little bit of movement with these pizzicato plucks from the strings. Now, the shorts in this library are actually an extreme strong suit of the Solstice library. all of the short articulations sound really, really, really good. Like, better than most libraries I have. I don't mean to sound so surprised, but with this being such a niche, specific character library, it's just surprising to have shorts that could honestly replace some of my, like, regular bread and butter shorts. You can hear those a little bit more once we get into this next section. This is just one of many of the short articulations. This is just the spiccato pointed. There's also spiccato ricochet. I thought there was also another that might have been in the classic strings. Brushed. Okay, so this also has this one. Very subtle difference, but really, really important in my opinion. So here we have the choir blossoms from the folk choir library, also doubling these chords. We have the drone layered on top. And we also have these guitar evos layered on top. And then we have this top line from the Blackguards playing. And then that takes us into this next section where we have this sort of breakdown with the hurdy-gurdy. Now I figured this was a good opportunity to break out my own model wooden hurdy-gurdy that was gifted to me by a dear friend, but which actually plays, surprisingly enough. As you can hear, I'm not very good at playing it, and it doesn't sound like a real hurdy-gurdy, but it sounds close enough, and it added a really cool texture to this part when layered with the Solstice Library hurdy-gurdy. And so the model hurdy-gurdy sounds like this. Here we have the hurdy-gurdy from the actual library. This patch in particular only exists in the key of D, I believe, and so I had to bounce it to audio and then tune it down to where I wanted it, which was C. And so when paired with the model hurdy-gurdy, it actually sounds pretty freaking cool. Eventually, I have the sustains from the folk choir coming in. So these are just all 4 vocalists on the just regular sustain patch, and they are singing in the articulation. And so that by itself sounds like this. I then went and doubled it with this patch from the Solstice library, which is the Mystics, and they are singing also the long mms. And this is the infinite patch, which means they essentially never run out of breath. But that by itself sounds like this. Altogether, the vocals sound like this. And here we have another guitar Evo playing the harmonics. Now the patch itself does go ever so slightly out of the key here towards the end, but I actually just really liked it, so I kept it. And so that is my track that I wrote using the Folk Voices and Albion Solstice libraries. If you use the link, it helps support me and my channel and my career, so please do that. When I say Albion Solstice is a big library, I am not kidding. I showed you maybe not even 15% of what this library has to offer. If I could have incorporated every single instrument and patch into this track, I could, but I decided to just use the ones that I needed and the ones that I could actually hear being a part of this track. But I genuinely encourage you guys to check out the walkthrough for this specific library. I'm going to link it down in the description because there is just so much content here. The Folk Voices library is such a good, warm sound. It's very much a character library, so if you don't want that sort of folky sound, then maybe it's not for you. But if you are looking for something like that, I can't think of anything else that offers the same. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and see me next time, and take it easy.